Large images can really slow down your website, which creates a less than optimal user experience. Optimizing or resizing images is the process of decreasing their file size. Optimizing images or resizing them is just the process of decreasing their file size. In the WordPress lesson on images, I recommended this compression plugin that will help somewhat, but it really is not a substitute for resizing your images before you upload them. If you're still not sold on the importance of optimizing, let me share some benefits. First off, your site will be faster. That means visitors will not get bored and they will likely stay on your page longer. Your Google page speed score will be better, and as a result, your search engine rankings will improve. This means more visitors will find your site. And finally, you'll need less storage on your servers and you'll spend fewer resources, which save you money. I'm going to take you back to Canva where I will show you how to resize your images there and save them as a smaller file format to upload to your website. By optimizing your images here in Canva, you can not only make them a smaller size to improve your website performance, but you can also make them the exact size that you would like them to be used in your website. So for example, if you just wanted a small square image to be a profile picture on an About Me page, why not go ahead and create it that size instead of creating it larger and then trying to edit in WordPress? WordPress has very limited editing, as we saw previously. Sometimes it takes a little trial and error to determine the optimal dimensions, but once you get it down, you'll have a template that you can work with. For my website, I found the dimensions that work the best for a full blog image are similar to a YouTube thumbnail. If you wanted to start with that size, you could search on YouTube thumbnail. And here it comes. And it shows you what those dimensions are. 1280 by 720 pixels. Now, you can choose to create a blank thumbnail, or you could pick one of these templates. We're going to start with a blank first. Now remember, I showed you in the last video, if you come over here to Uploads, you can drag and drop an image that you have on your computer. I'm going to move 3 right now. Now when you go to Elements, one of the options here is Grids, Photo Grids. If you click on this one, this allows you to do a full image on a page. Adding another page, you could use a different grid. So say you wanted to do a layout of 3 different images. Now here's the great thing about this. Let's go back to our uploads. You could just drag over and it pulls a photo, or one here, and one here. Now if you wanted to move where they were in the image, because obviously it's condensed it, see there was 2 different pasta dishes here, we could just drag, I'm clicking and dragging, and then hit done. And this one I like the width, well let's see, for the width, yeah, the width is good, so I like that because it has the pasta in it. So 2 different options of images that could go into a blog post. You could have one sole image, you could have 2 images. Now we've made it the size that we want for our blog, or at least the one that works well for my blog. Like I said, you might have to play around with the dimensions a little bit. So say you find out that your blog, it needs to be even wider than it is right now. A nice thing about having the Pro version is that you can resize. Unfortunately, you can't do that on the free version. What you would have to do on the free version is create with custom dimensions, and I'll show you how to do that. Now one more thing, say we want to download these and put them into our blog just like this. You come up here to the top right and it's download. Now there are really 2 different image formats, the most common being .png or .jpg, also known as a JPEG. In most cases for a blog, you're going to want to use a JPEG. It is a smaller image size while still having a great format with lots of gradients and millions of colors. The PNG you're really only going to want to use with things like logos, or remember how we said if you wanted to do a transparent background. So we'll pick JPEG And you notice it said small file size. And we can download both of these into one file. But in order to be able to find them on my computer, before I click download, I'm going to give them a name that I can know to search on. So I'm going to say blog image, and I'm even going to make it a little more specific, pasta. Okay? And then I'm going to download. You have to change it again to JPEG because it always defaults to PNG. It says it's a higher quality image, but like we said, we're not printing these, we're putting them on a blog. And then you just say download. And now these images have been downloaded in a folder, and here they are in your downloads. They're just going to be as pages 1 and 2, so you could rename it so that you can find it when you go to put it into your blog. Let's see the difference if we were to save one of these as a PNG, so you can see the file size difference. I'll just do the first one. Here's the single pasta dish, and this is the .png. It's 1.2 megabytes, while the one that is a JPEG is 105 kilobytes. And that's going to be a lot better for your blog performance. Now, one last thing I want to show you in optimizing images to use for your blog. You might want to do a featured image with some text overlay. Let's see an example of that. Right here. It's a featured image with some text overlay. It's especially good for when you share it on social media. So how could you do that? Well, one way that you could do it is you could just go ahead and create it by yourself with your own elements. So you would clear what elements you've done so far and pick something. So let's just once again go just with a square that we can drag out. And then you just use these little things to move it around. You pick your colors from before. Then you add your text. You just have to click the text that comes with it, and then you have to go to, then you have to remember what your fonts are. Ours was this one. You can drag this out if you want to make sure that it's centered. And then we could say perfect pasta. Okay, and then let's say we want to make it a little bit larger. Let's say we want to make it all caps. And then let's add one more with that homemade apple was our other font. Change the color. Let's put it down underneath it and say every single time. Just a little bit larger. And that's an example of how you could do one with text overlay. And there's a lot more that you can play around with, but just really see how fast and simple that was. Another way is to come up here to templates. And so we could pick a template, but I'm going to tell you right now, if we go over a page with a template, here's what will happen. Now your image is gone, right? And you're like, what? Okay, so what you have to do is just come back to your uploads, drag it over, and set it there. If you don't drag it, if you just click it, you see it just doesn't fill up the whole screen. So you just drag it over, and then you have to change your colors. This was our color. Then you want to change your fonts, because remember, we are trying to use the same fonts. Now, you notice how this one doesn't want to drag over, right? That's because this is a template, so it is more restrictive. So what I like to do is look at templates for inspiration, but then kind of create my own, because then I can move the things around. Like you notice how when I change the size of the text here, it made the whole bar so thin, and I didn't want to do that. I mean, then how could I add my second line like I did here? So I'll look at the templates just for a little inspiration, but then I usually will go ahead and do the elements manually. So I hope I've given you some good ideas for how you can optimize your images very easily in Canva as part of your regular workflow, and then upload them to your website after they've been optimized.